You don't need more presence. You need more weight. Have you ever left a conversation feeling like you said too much and became less interesting? Have you noticed that the more you try to get attention, the more people seem to pull away? Have you ever wondered why certain people stay in your head for days without even trying, while others who spend hours with you disappear from memory in minutes? If any of those questions touched something real, this video was made for you. Here you will understand 3 things most people never learn. How to create genuine impact without effort, why less presence often generates more influence, and how to turn every interaction into something the other person's mind keeps processing after you're gone. There is a brutal difference between being noticed and being remembered, between occupying someone's time and occupying that person's thoughts. And that difference is not in the amount of energy you put in. It is in the architecture of what you build. But before getting into that, there is one thing most people do backwards. And when you understand it, you will realize you have spent years sabotaging yourself without knowing it. The first uncomfortable truth is this: constant availability does not create value. It creates familiarity, and familiarity kills interest. Think of something you've had at home for years: a mug, a painting, a plant. You see it every day. It is always there. And for that exact reason, you stopped really seeing it. The human brain works this way by design. It rests on what is predictable, relaxes on what is constant. And when the brain relaxes, attention goes away. Most people do exactly the opposite of what works. They are available all the time. They respond immediately. They stretch conversations until the topic dies. They think continuous presence builds connection. But what it builds is habit. And habit is the enemy of admiration. In practice, this means the following. When you end a conversation while the energy level is still high, something curious happens in the other person's mind. Their brain does not receive the closure it expected. So it continues the conversation internally. It reviews what you said, analyzes your tone, tries to understand what was left unsaid. And every time it does that, you become more present in their head, without being physically there. This is not mystery. It is how cognition works. What is incomplete occupies space. What is complete is filed away and forgotten. Second truth: human beings do not remember conversations. They remember how they felt during them. Think about the people who left a mark on your life. They were not necessarily the ones who spent the most time with you. They were the ones who created an internal shift, a different perception, a feeling you didn't expect to have in that moment. A surgical comment at the right moment is worth more than 2 hours of small talk. A calm reaction when everyone around was losing the thread is worth more than any speech about self-confidence. An unexpected observation that touches exactly what the person was feeling but couldn't name. Those moments stay. They stay because they create what neuroscientists call an emotional marker. And what the brain marks as emotionally significant, it calls back repeatedly. The problem is that most people spend too much time trying to keep the conversation going and too little time creating those moments. They talk to fill silence instead of talking to create impact. And when you are worried about filling silence, you are worried about yourself, not the conversation. In practice, this means training one simple thing. Say less, but say it with precision. Every sentence with weight. Every silence chosen. Every response that could come quickly held back for one more second to land with more force. Third truth: the human brain is a pattern-closing machine. When it closes a pattern, it stops working. When it doesn't close, it keeps obsessing. Most people become completely predictable very quickly. The reactions are always the same. The tone doesn't change. Opinions arrive before the conversation ends. And when someone feels they have fully understood you, the interest disappears. Not out of malice, out of biological programming, Have you ever heard someone describe a person as complex and felt you wanted to meet them? That is the effect of not letting yourself be fully categorized. When you don't fit into a single box, the other person's mind keeps working to fit you in. And that work is called sustained attention. This doesn't mean pretending to be someone you are not. It means emotional control and selective expression. You can be direct in some moments and reserved in others. Calm when the situation calls for intensity. Light when seriousness is expected. That contrast is not manipulation. It is applied emotional intelligence. In practice, this means stopping to reveal everything you feel all the time. Not because you have something to hide, but because inner completeness does not need external approval to exist. This is where everything flips. Most people try to create influence by increasing intensity, more effort, more presence, more demonstration of interest. But intensity without tension is just noise. What creates real influence is psychological tension. And psychological tension comes from one specific thing: the space between what is evident and what has not yet been said. When you understand this, you stop competing for attention and start creating gravity. People don't chase what is always available. They chase what occupies their thoughts. And what occupies thoughts is not whoever shouts the loudest. It is whoever leaves open questions. Fourth truth. You become psychologically valuable when your presence elevates the internal state of those around you. Don't confuse this with being nice or pleasant. Comfort creates familiarity, and you already know what familiarity does. What elevates is different. It is when someone leaves a conversation with you feeling clearer, more focused, more capable of seeing what they couldn't see before. The brain associates people with the sensations they create. If you are consistently associated with a feeling of expansion, of clarity, of forward movement, you become something the mind wants to access again. Not because you asked for that role, because you created it. This happens through the pattern you carry, not through what you say, but through what you demonstrate. A conversation that brings perspective instead of confirmation. A presence that doesn't need approval to remain stable. A focus that doesn't dissolve when the environment becomes chaotic. In practice, this means asking questions that move forward instead of questions that confirm. Gently challenging instead of automatically agreeing. Bringing clarity where there was confusion, even if it creates temporary discomfort. Fifth truth. Emotional contrast creates memory. Monotony creates nothing. The brain doesn't register continuous states. It registers changes, a curve, a peak, a break in expectation. That is why the moments you remember most in your life are not the ordinary days. They are the ones that broke the pattern. When you are always serious, a moment of genuine lightness gets engraved. When you are generally contained, a precise and intense observation carries a weight that the same observation from someone always intense would never have. The impact of a moment depends on the contrast that precedes it. This is not about calculating how to behave. It is about having real emotional range. Most people operate on a single register, serious or easygoing, intense or relaxed. And that single register, even if positive, becomes wallpaper over time. In practice, this means asking yourself how often you surprise the people around you with a reaction they didn't expect from you. If the answer is rarely, you have probably already become predictable to them without noticing. Sixth truth. Most people stay too long, and they pay dearly for it. Every interaction has an energy curve. It rises. It reaches a peak. And if you continue past that peak, it falls. And the memory that remains is of the moment it was falling, not the moment it was rising. People who leave while the level is still high do something that seems counterintuitive, but is psychologically powerful. They create an incomplete emotional state, and the brain doesn't file away incomplete states. It keeps them open, active, revisited. Leaving at the right moment also communicates something without a single word being said. It communicates that you have other places to be, that your time has structure, that the interaction was intentional, not automatic. This changes the perception of your value without you needing to declare anything. In practice, this means developing the habit of ending interactions a little before you normally would, before the topic dies, before the energy drops, and observing what happens with the way people pick up the conversation next time. Seventh truth, and perhaps the most important: visible need destroys influence faster than any mistake. The moment another person senses that you need their attention, their approval, their response in order to feel good, the balance flips completely. You stop being a presence with weight and become a demand. And demands create resistance, not attraction. Most people signal need without realizing it. They check reactions. They adjust their behavior based on what seems to be approved. They interpret every silence as rejection. And all that anxiety is perceived, even when it is not verbalized. People sense it. And when they sense it, they pull back. What creates real attraction is the opposite. A life that seems complete regardless of any specific validation. An emotional stability that doesn't fluctuate according to someone else's mood. A genuine engagement that is not asking for anything in return. In practice, this means asking yourself a direct question. How much of what you do in your most important interactions is motivated by wanting something back? And how much is motivated by who you truly are, regardless of response? Eighth truth. The silence you don't fill says more about you than anything you say. Most people are afraid of silence. They treat it as a mistake, as a sign that the conversation has failed, that you have nothing to say, that the other person is getting bored. So they fill it. They say anything. They make a joke that isn't that good. They bring back a topic that was already dead. All to keep the silence from lasting. But silence is not the absence of communication. It is a specific type of communication. And whoever can inhabit it without anxiety communicates something very precise, that they don't need the noise to feel safe. Think about the people you consider most present, most dense, most difficult to ignore. Now think about how they behave in silence. They don't rush to fill it. They stay in it. And that ability to not flee from the void creates a silent pressure that the other person feels without being able to name it. There is a direct psychological mechanism here. When you fill silence out of anxiety, you transfer to the other person emotional control of the situation. When you stay in the silence calmly, the other person starts to feel the need to speak, to explain, to fill. The pole of power shifted without a single word being said. This applies in difficult conversations, in negotiations, in moments when you received a question that deserves a real answer. The impulse to respond immediately feels natural. But the response that comes after a deliberate pause carries a completely different weight. It was weighed before it came out, and the other person perceives that. In practice, this means testing one thing this week. The next time you feel the impulse to fill a silence out of discomfort, don't fill it. Stay in it for 2-3 seconds longer than you normally would. Observe what happens. Observe who speaks first. And observe how you feel afterward when you realize the silence didn't destroy anything. Now let's get to the answer to the question at the beginning. You wondered why certain people stay in your head without trying. The answer is not mysterious charisma. It is not an innate quality you either have or you don't. It is architecture. It is the structure of how presence is exercised. Rare presence is worth more than constant presence. Emotional impact lasts longer than physical time. Unresolved tension occupies more mental space than total clarity. Inner stability attracts more than demonstrated intensity. Leaving at the right moment weighs more than prolonged permanence. None of these principles require you to be someone you are not. They require you to stop acting out of anxiety and start acting with awareness. That is all. The transformation this script proposes is not about becoming a different person. It is about stopping the sabotage of who you already are with behaviors that seem natural but work against you. If you ignore what is here, nothing changes. The same interactions, the same results, the same people who disappear from your head and those who stay without you understanding why. But if you apply a single principle this week, you will begin to notice a concrete difference in how the people around you respond to you. And that difference is the beginning of something that grows. The most powerful presence that exists does not shout. It simply cannot be ignored.